Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Hello, my name's Andy, and this video is going to be a brief introduction and walkthrough of my iPad app as it stands. So, a little background to the project. In the 1960s, an instrument called the mellotron was developed, which essentially is a series of tape playback heads. Each key have its own tape sample and playing head, and the samples consisted of real-life acoustic instruments such as cellos, flutes, choirs, and so on and so forth, singing or playing a note at that particular note specific to the corresponding note on the keyboard. The idea being you could play an entire chord of, say, 3 cello notes, which in real life would be quite impossible, or certainly quite difficult with one person, but you get this really lush sort of full and somehow quite a natural sounding sound out of the instrument, because as soon as you let go of the keys, the samples would stop and rewind, rather than the kind of natural, decay or ambience. Just to illustrate this, I've loaded up some YouTube videos of questionable quality. You have to excuse the frame rate of this video capture, but hopefully the sound will be there. So this is a mellotron choir. So rather than having the sound pitch shifted like any number of samplers could do nowadays, each sample was its own recording. So you get none of the weird sort of wacky pitch shifting, artifacts where it sounds a bit weird. Instead, it sounds really full and really interesting. Here's a cello. And we've got another cello. And finally with strings. Well, a creepy faced guy. So beautiful, as used by bands of all sorts of genres and ilks all over the world for the last 50 years. However many years it has been since the 1960s. So there's some background. Let's move on to showing you my actual app. Okay, so let's open up code blocks. I've been using the Open Frameworks library and the Maximilian library, as I'm sure a few of you have been. Let's open up the app. Some of the visuals are placeholders for the time being. But it's essentially the sort of vibe I'm going for, in that juxtaposing the natural with the mechanical in the same way the mellotron does, of having a real life sort of acoustic sample of a real instrument in the real world, but having it played back in a very sort of on-off, clunky, unnatural way. So I try to reflect that in the visuals, or I will do rather. Okay, so we've got controls for pitch, controls for volume, controls for what voice we're using, the keyboard, and the settings button, which takes you to a screen that says settings. I might change that, I'm not certain. There we go. Okay, so obviously I can only play one note at a time using the mouse I am currently. So there's some sounds. I've only done the white keys as of yet, but can be easily fixed. So I've got these 3 different samples. Each one is its own sample rather than being pitch shifted to echo the original mellotron. I'll be recording my own real world samples, getting in some musician friends, and as well as doing sort of cellos and stuff, doing some slightly more interesting sounds. Giving the user the ability to play them as a chord. So as well as that, I've got a mode that doesn't yet, but will let the user record their own sample using the iPad's built-in microphone, and play chords with it. by having it pitch shift over the entire 2-octave keyboard range appropriately. To illustrate this, I've actually mapped this mode to my laptop keyboard rather than using the mouse, so I can play chords. So there's a guitar. That was the original sample. We've also got so we can pitch shift it up to suit whatever backing you need if your original sample is not in the right sort of relative tuning. You can also make it go beyond 0 and have a reverse sample, which is quite pretty nifty, do say so myself. And we've got volume controls. So as well as that, you can what else can we do? To do a bit of on-the-fly programming here. So we've got, that was a guitar. We also recorded some fairly awful 3-part choir earlier on. So you can hear me struggling to keep notes. So that's me singing 3 octaves, all in one key. So if I play a chord, sounds a bit like the Chipmunks. Let's have some reverse stuff. So there's quite a lot of potential for some interesting textures, as well as doing hugely inane things like, wish this didn't take so long to load, such as you can make your novelty Christmas albums using this. Currently the Maximilian library only plays back as a loop, and I don't actually want that, so I'm waiting on Mick Grierson to find the time to alter his library for me, which is a bit of an ask, I suppose, but it would be handy. Thanks, Mick. So as well as doing that, you can use it as a straight up sample playback of any particular sound, your favourite liars of politics.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Miss Lewinsky. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Miss Lewinsky.
I did not. Snow Wilson.
Oh, it's like the Beatles. So that'll do. That'll do. So there's still some functionality left to add, but it's getting there, and I'm quite pleased with it. So thank you for watching.